They laughed at my little freelance hobby during our family reunion, calling me the failure who never grew up. But when that courier arrived with my Industry Innovation Award for revolutionizing sustainable architecture, their mockery turned into stunned silence. This is how I transformed their ridicule into the foundation of a multi-million-dollar empire that changed an entire industry. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Dr. Sophia Chen Martinez, and the irony of my story is not lost on me. The very family members who dismissed my career as insignificant would later watch me accept recognition as one of the most influential sustainable architecture innovators of the decade. But understanding how that transformation occurred requires going back to the beginning, to the foundation I built through years of methodical dedication that my relatives never bothered to understand. The morning of July 15th began like countless others in my converted garage studio in Berkeley, California. Sunlight streamed through the skylights I had installed myself, illuminating architectural drawings, sustainability charts, and environmental impact assessments that covered every available surface. This space represented 5 years of careful planning and strategic investment, transforming what had once been storage for forgotten household items into a sophisticated design laboratory that rivaled many traditional architecture firms. My workstation occupied the center of the garage, featuring dual monitors displaying CAD software, energy modeling programs, and project management systems that allowed me to coordinate complex sustainable building projects from this seemingly modest location. The casual observer might have seen chaos in the arrangement of material samples, engineering specifications, and prototype models that lined my shelves, but every element served a specific purpose in my systematic approach to revolutionary architecture design. The contrast between my professional reality and my family's perception of my situation had been growing for years. While they saw someone working from a garage without traditional corporate benefits or prestigious office addresses, I had been building relationships with forward-thinking clients who valued innovation over convention. My projects consistently achieved LEED Platinum certification while coming in under budget and ahead of schedule, results that spoke louder than any corporate title could have. My educational background had provided the foundation for this success, though my path had been unconventional by traditional standards. After completing my Master of Architecture at UC Berkeley with a specialization in sustainable design, I had pursued additional certification in environmental building sciences and renewable energy systems. Rather than accepting offers from established firms that would have constrained my innovative vision, I had chosen to build my own practice that could implement cutting-edge approaches without bureaucratic limitations. The decision to establish Chen Martinez Sustainable Design as an independent practice had been strategic rather than desperate. Market research had revealed significant demand for architects who could deliver both environmental performance and aesthetic excellence, but most traditional firms were slow to adapt their practices to meet evolving client needs. This gap represented exactly the opportunity my specialized expertise could address effectively. My client base had grown organically through demonstrated results rather than marketing campaigns or networking manipulation. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a research scientist at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, had become my first major client after seeing preliminary designs I had developed for energy-positive residential construction. Her project became a showcase for techniques that reduced energy consumption by 73%. While maintaining construction costs comparable to conventional building methods. Word of that success had spread through professional networks and academic circles, leading to additional projects that challenged me to push the boundaries of what sustainable architecture could achieve. The Redwood Community Center, completed 18 months later, had become the first municipal building in Northern California to achieve net zero energy consumption while serving as a gathering space for 3,000 community members. Local media coverage of that project had established my reputation as someone who could deliver both environmental performance and social impact. Corporate clients had followed, drawn by case studies that demonstrated measurable returns on investment. In sustainable building practices, Martinez Technology Solutions had hired me to design their new headquarters after reviewing energy savings achieved at previous projects, ultimately saving 47% on operational costs while creating workspace environments that improved employee satisfaction and productivity. Their executives had become advocates for my approach, referring additional clients who shared their commitment to environmental responsibility. The technical aspects of my work required constant learning and adaptation as building science advanced and new materials became available. I maintained active membership in 3 professional organizations, attended quarterly conferences on sustainable building practices, and collaborated with researchers at UC Berkeley's Center for the Built Environment to stay current with emerging technologies. This investment in professional development had positioned me at the forefront of industry evolution, rather than merely following established practices. My project portfolio by July 15th included 17 completed buildings that had collectively prevented over 2,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions while saving their owners more than $800,000 in operational costs. These numbers represented real environmental impact and financial value, though they apparently meant nothing to family members who measured success through traditional corporate metrics like salary levels and office locations. The financial foundation of my practice had been built through careful resource management and strategic reinvestment, rather than external funding or family support. Initial projects had been priced conservatively to establish credibility, with profits immediately reinvested in advanced software, specialized equipment, and additional training that enhanced my capabilities. This approach had required personal sacrifice during the early years, but it had created sustainable growth without debt obligations or investor pressure that might have compromised my design principles. My daily routine reflected the discipline required to maintain this level of professional excellence while operating as a sole proprietor. Work began at 6 each morning with review of industry publications and technical updates, followed by client communications and project coordination, that often extended past midnight. Weekends were dedicated to site visits, continuing education, and business development activities that traditional employees might have delegated to support staff or marketing departments. The converted garage studio had been designed to maximize both functionality and inspiration, incorporating natural lighting systems, air purification technology, and acoustic treatments that created an environment conducive to creative problem-solving. Climate control systems maintained optimal temperature and humidity for preserving architectural drawings and material samples, while ergonomic workstations supported the long hours required for detailed design development. Professional relationships had been cultivated systematically through consistent delivery of exceptional results, rather than social networking or promotional campaigns. Engineers, contractors, and suppliers had learned to associate my name with projects that challenged conventional approaches while maintaining rigorous quality standards. These relationships had become valuable assets, providing access to specialized expertise and innovative materials that enhanced my design capabilities. My reputation within the academic community had developed through guest lectures at UC Berkeley and Stanford, where I shared practical insights about implementing sustainable design principles in real-world projects. These presentations had led to research collaborations and consulting opportunities that expanded my influence beyond individual building projects. Graduate students had begun requesting mentorship, recognizing that my experience bridged the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical application. Industry recognition had been accumulating gradually through publications in professional journals and presentations at national conferences. The American Institute of Architects had featured my work in their monthly magazine, highlighting innovative approaches to energy-efficient design that other practitioners could adapt for their own projects. This exposure had generated inquiries from potential clients across the country, though I maintained focus on regional projects that allowed personal involvement throughout the construction process. The morning routine on July 15th had included reviewing final documentation for the Harbor View residential complex, a 90-unit affordable housing project that would demonstrate how sustainable design principles could be applied to low-income housing without increasing construction costs. This project represented 18 months of collaboration with the Oakland Housing Authority and would provide energy-efficient homes for families while serving as a model for similar developments throughout California. My computer contained detailed files for 43 active projects in various stages of development, from initial consultation through construction administration. Each project required careful attention to building codes, environmental regulations, and client specifications, while incorporating innovative approaches that pushed the boundaries of conventional practice. This workload would have been impossible without the systematic processes and technological tools I had developed over 5 years of independent practice. The success metrics I tracked went beyond traditional business indicators to include environmental impact, client satisfaction, and contribution to sustainable building knowledge. Every completed project was analyzed for energy performance, construction efficiency, and user experience, with lessons learned incorporated into future designs. This commitment to continuous improvement had enabled me to refine my approach while building a reputation for delivering results that exceeded client expectations. Professional development investments had included attending the International Conference on Sustainable Architecture in Copenhagen the previous year, where I had presented research on passive cooling systems in Mediterranean climates. The networking opportunities at that conference had led to collaboration inquiries from European firms interested in licensing my innovative approaches for international projects. These opportunities represented potential for global impact, though I remained focused on establishing deeper regional influence before pursuing international expansion. The technical library in my studio contained over 300 specialized references on sustainable building practices, renewable energy systems, and environmental building science. These resources were consulted regularly during the design process, ensuring that my solutions were grounded in established scientific principles while incorporating the latest research findings. Maintaining this library required significant, ongoing investment, but it provided competitive advantages that justified the expense through superior project outcomes. Client testimonials consistently emphasized both the environmental performance and aesthetic quality of my designs, validating my belief that sustainability and beauty were complementary rather than competing objectives. Dr. Walsh had described her home as a perfect integration of environmental responsibility and architectural elegance, while the Martinez technology executives had noted that their employees consistently rated their workspace as the most inspiring environment they had ever experienced. The foundation for everything that would unfold at the family reunion had been built through these years of methodical dedication to excellence, systematic business development, and unwavering commitment to environmental principles. Every late night spent perfecting technical drawings, every weekend devoted to site inspections, and every dollar reinvested in professional development had contributed to creating something that transcended traditional notions of career success. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. My family members, however, had never bothered to understand this foundation. To them, working from a garage meant failure to achieve conventional corporate success. The absence of traditional employment benefits, corporate titles, or prestigious office addresses overshadowed any discussion of environmental impact, client satisfaction, or professional recognition. Their narrow definition of success would soon be challenged in ways they never anticipated. The woman who would walk into that family reunion carried with her 5 years of proven expertise, a growing reputation for innovation, and a client base that valued her unique capabilities. She had built something meaningful through personal sacrifice and professional excellence, though she had no idea that validation of her achievements was about to arrive in the most dramatic and public way possible. The Chen family reunion had been a tradition for 23 years, hosted annually at my Uncle Richard's sprawling estate in Palo Alto. The property represented everything my extended family valued about success: impressive square footage, manicured landscapes, and a location that commanded respect in Silicon Valley's social hierarchy. This year marked the first time I had attended in 3 years, having previously declined invitations due to project deadlines and the exhausting ritual of defending my career choices to relatives who measured achievement through narrow corporate metrics. The decision to attend this year had been motivated by my grandmother's explicit request during our monthly phone call in June. At 91, Grandma Eleanor remained the family matriarch whose opinions carried weight across 3 generations. Her gentle insistence that family connections mattered more than professional obligations had overcome my reluctance to subject myself to another afternoon of career interrogations and subtle condescension from cousins who had followed traditional, corporate paths. My arrival at Uncle Richard's estate coincided with the peak of afternoon activity, as 47 family members gathered on the expansive back patio that overlooked professionally landscaped gardens and a swimming pool that had been featured in architectural magazines. The scene represented quintessential upper-middle-class success, with conversations flowing between discussion of recent vacations, private school enrollments, and stock portfolio performance that dominated family gatherings for as long as I could remember. The parking area revealed the material evidence of my relatives' achievements through an impressive collection of luxury vehicles that sparkled in the July sunshine. BMW sedans, Mercedes SUVs, and Tesla Model S cars created a display of automotive prosperity that served as silent testimony to the corporate success that defined family expectations. My 7-year-old Honda Civic, reliable but unremarkable, seemed almost apologetic among these symbols of financial achievement. Uncle Richard greeted me with characteristic enthusiasm, his smile genuine despite the underlying questions I knew would surface throughout the afternoon. As a senior partner at Goldman Sachs, he embodied the family's definition of professional success through 6-figure compensation, prestigious corporate affiliation, and social status that opened doors. Throughout the Bay Area business community, his questions about my work always carried undertones of concern rather than curiosity, as if my chosen path represented a temporary deviation that would eventually be corrected through proper guidance. My cousin Bradley approached within minutes of my arrival, his confident stride and expensive casual attire announcing his status as a rising star in the venture capital industry. At 34, 2 years younger than myself, Bradley had achieved partnership at a prominent Sand Hill Road firm through aggressive deal-making and an intuitive understanding of technology investment trends. His success had made him the family's current golden child, someone whose opinions about career strategy carried weight among relatives who viewed financial achievement as the ultimate measure of personal worth. "Sophia, great to see you," Bradley announced with the practiced warmth of someone accustomed to managing professional relationships for strategic advantage. "Still working on those environmental projects? How's the consulting business treating you?" His tone suggested polite interest rather than genuine curiosity, the kind of conversational opening that allowed him to demonstrate awareness of my activities without investing significant attention in the details. The characterization of my architectural practice as consulting business revealed the fundamental misunderstanding that permeated family discussions of my career. Despite repeated explanations about sustainable building design, LEED certification processes, and environmental impact measurement, my relatives consistently reduced my work to vague consulting activities that lacked the concrete structure they associated with legitimate professional endeavors. My cousin Jennifer joined our conversation with characteristic directness, her designer dress and perfectly arranged jewelry reflecting her success as a pharmaceutical sales manager for Pfizer. At 29, she had achieved recognition as one of the company's top regional performers through systematic relationship building with medical professionals and strategic positioning of new drug launches. Her approach to career development emphasized measurable results and competitive advancement within established corporate hierarchies. "I was just telling Mom about your garage office setup," Jennifer announced with the kind of casual cruelty that family members could deliver without apparent recognition of its impact. It's so creative how you've made that work for your little business. Very entrepreneurial. The emphasis on little business carried implications that reduced 5 years of professional development to a temporary experiment that would eventually mature into something more substantial and conventional. The conversation attracted additional family members who gathered around our informal discussion circle with the kind of anticipatory energy that suggested entertainment value in exploring my unconventional career path. My cousin David, a corporate attorney specializing in mergers and acquisitions, positioned himself to observe the exchange while managing his own conversation about recent billable hour achievements and partnership track considerations at his downtown San Francisco firm. My Aunt Susan approached with maternal concern that felt both genuine and condescending, her expression suggesting worry about my life choices that had been building for years. As a retired human resources executive, she had spent decades evaluating career trajectories and identifying factors that contributed to professional success within corporate environments. Her perspective on my architectural practice was filtered through traditional employment metrics that emphasized salary progression, benefit packages, and organizational advancement opportunities. Sophia, dear, I hope you're considering your long-term financial security, Aunt Susan began with the tone of someone delivering necessary but uncomfortable advice. Freelance work can be so unpredictable, and you're at an age where retirement planning becomes crucial. Have you thought about using your skills in a more stable environment? I know several firms that might appreciate your environmental expertise. The suggestion that I should seek employment rather than continue developing my independent practice reflected the family's persistent inability to recognize the distinction between freelance consulting and established architectural practice. Despite documentation of completed projects, client testimonials, and industry recognition, my relatives continued to view my work through the lens of temporary consulting rather than professional architecture that happened to operate outside. Traditional firm structures. Bradley's attention returned to our conversation with renewed interest, apparently sensing an opportunity to demonstrate his business expertise through analysis of my career strategy. His venture capital background had trained him to evaluate business models for scalability, market positioning, and competitive advantage. Frameworks he applied to family discussions with the confidence of someone accustomed to making investment decisions worth millions of dollars. The thing about architectural consulting, Bradley announced with authoritative certainty, is that it's fundamentally a lifestyle business rather than a scalable enterprise. You're trading time for money without building real equity or developing systems that can generate passive income. Have you considered licensing your designs or developing intellectual property that could create recurring revenue streams? His analysis demonstrated both sophistication about business strategy and complete misunderstanding of architectural practice, where professional relationships, site-specific design solutions, and regulatory compliance created value that could not be easily systematized or scaled through traditional business development approaches. The suggestion that my work lacked strategic thinking revealed his assumption that any business operating outside venture capital frameworks must be unsophisticated or poorly conceived. Jennifer's response built upon Bradley's analysis with additional concerns about market positioning and competitive differentiation. Her pharmaceutical sales experience had taught her to evaluate business opportunities through the lens of market share, competitive analysis, and strategic positioning that maximized revenue generation within established industry structures. Plus, the environmental consulting market is getting so crowded, Jennifer added with confident authority despite having no direct experience in sustainable building design. Everyone's jumping on the green bandwagon now, so differentiation becomes really challenging. Have you thought about pivoting into something with better growth potential? Maybe technology consulting or digital marketing? The casual dismissal of 5 years of specialized expertise as environmental consulting that could be easily replaced with technology work demonstrated the family's fundamental misunderstanding of professional architecture. The suggestion that Sustainable building design was a trend rather than a fundamental shift in industry practice, revealed how little attention they had paid to my explanations about regulatory changes, client demand evolution, and environmental impact requirements that were reshaping construction standards. My cousin Michael, recently promoted to senior manager at Deloitte, contributed his perspective as someone with extensive experience in corporate restructuring and operational efficiency analysis. His consulting background had provided exposure to diverse industries and business models, though his recommendations consistently emphasized scalability and systematic process development that aligned with traditional consulting methodologies. The challenge with professional services, Michael announced with the confidence of someone accustomed to diagnosing organizational problems, is that growth requires either significantly higher billing rates or team expansion that creates management complexity. Most solo practitioners hit a ceiling pretty quickly unless they can develop productized offerings or build recurring revenue relationships. His analysis contained elements of accuracy about professional services challenges, while completely missing the unique aspects of architectural practice that differentiated my work from generic consulting activities. The assumption that I was a solo practitioner, rather than the principal of an established architectural firm, reflected the family's persistent categorization of my work as temporary consulting rather than professional practice with growing industry recognition. The collective weight of these analyses created an atmosphere of gentle but persistent criticism that positioned my career choices as interesting experiments that lacked the strategic thinking and market awareness necessary for substantial success. Each family member contributed expertise from their respective industries while demonstrating complete ignorance about sustainable architecture, LEED certification processes, or the growing market demand for environmental building performance. Uncle Richard rejoined our conversation with the diplomatic skills that had served him well in investment banking, his approach designed to acknowledge different perspectives while maintaining family harmony. His position as successful patriarch gave his opinions particular weight among relatives who respected his financial achievements and business acumen developed over 30 years in competitive Wall Street environments. "Sophia's always been our creative family member," Uncle Richard announced with affectionate condescension that positioned my career as artistic expression rather than serious business development. "It's wonderful that she's found ways to combine her environmental interests with architectural training. Not everyone needs to follow traditional corporate paths, and there's definitely value in pursuing work that aligns with personal values. The characterization of my practice as creative, expression rather than professional architecture felt like gentle dismissal disguised as supportive acknowledgement. The implication that my work represented personal values rather than market-driven business development suggested that my relatives viewed environmental building design as idealistic hobby rather than responding to measurable client demand and regulatory requirements. My grandmother's approach toward our gathering created a momentary pause in the career analysis, her presence commanding respect that temporarily redirected conversation toward family updates and personal relationships. At 91, Grandma Eleanor maintained sharp intelligence and diplomatic skills that had served as family peacekeeping mechanisms for decades, though her questions about my work typically focused on personal satisfaction rather than financial metrics that dominated other relatives' concerns. "Sophia, dear, you look healthy and happy," Grandma Eleanor observed with genuine warmth that contrasted sharply with the analytical scrutiny I had been experiencing. "Are you enjoying your work? That's what matters most in the long run." Her perspective reflected generational wisdom that prioritized personal fulfillment over purely financial considerations, though I suspected she shared other family members' concerns about my unconventional career path. The temporary respite provided by Grandma Eleanor's presence allowed me to observe the broader family dynamics that had been developing throughout the afternoon. Conversations consistently returned to themes of corporate advancement, salary progression, and material acquisition that reflected shared values about professional success and social status. The absence of discussion about environmental impact, social contribution, or professional innovation suggested that these concepts fell outside the family's framework for evaluating career achievement. My cousin Sarah's arrival shifted attention toward her recent promotion to Senior Director of Marketing at a Fortune 500 technology company, an achievement that generated enthusiastic congratulations and detailed questions about her new responsibilities and compensation package. Her success story provided a template for family expectations about career progression through corporate hierarchies that emphasized systematic advancement and measurable financial rewards. The contrast between the attention devoted to Sarah's corporate promotion and the dismissive analysis of my architectural practice illustrated the family's clear hierarchy of professional legitimacy. Traditional employment within established organizations generated respect and interest, while independent practice attracted concerned analysis and suggestions for career correction that would align my choices with conventional success metrics. As the afternoon progressed, the cumulative effect of these interactions created mounting pressure to defend career choices that I had never questioned until subjected to systematic family scrutiny. The gap between my professional reality and their perception of my situation had been growing for years, but this gathering made the disconnect impossible to ignore or minimize through polite deflection. The transition from subtle condescension to open mockery began during the late afternoon barbecue, when alcohol consumption and group dynamics transformed individual concerns about my career into collective entertainment at my expense. The setting, sun cast long shadows across Uncle Richard's immaculate patio as family members gathered around the outdoor dining area, their conversations flowing between summer vacation plans and professional achievements that reinforced shared values about material success and social status. Bradley's voice carried across the patio with increased volume and confidence, his third craft beer having apparently loosened whatever diplomatic restraints had previously moderated his observations about my career choices. His position near the outdoor bar created a natural gathering point for other family members who found themselves drawn into his increasingly animated analysis of business strategy and market positioning within the architecture industry. "You know what's really fascinating," Bradley announced with the authority of someone accustomed to commanding attention during venture capital presentations, "is how some people convince themselves that lifestyle businesses represent serious entrepreneurship. It's like the difference between running a lemonade stand and building the next Uber. Both involve selling something, but only one creates real value for investors and stakeholders." His analogy between my architectural practice and a lemonade stand generated appreciative laughter from cousins who had been drinking steadily throughout the afternoon. The comparison reduced 5 years of professional development, environmental innovation, and client relationship building to childlike business activity that lacked sophistication or strategic thinking necessary for legitimate enterprise development. Jennifer's response built upon Bradley's analysis with additional observations about market dynamics and competitive positioning that demonstrated her sales training, while revealing complete ignorance about architectural practice regulations and professional licensing requirements that governed my industry. Her pharmaceutical background had taught her to evaluate business opportunities through pipeline development and market penetration metrics that bore no relationship to sustainable building design. Plus, working from home sounds so convenient until you realize it's basically code for "couldn't get hired anywhere else," Jennifer added with casual cruelty that transformed family gathering conversation into systematic character assassination disguised as career counseling. "I mean, everyone knows the most talented people get recruited by major firms. The leftover market serves clients who can't afford real architects." The characterization of my practice as serving leftover clients who couldn't afford real architects demonstrated the family's complete misunderstanding of market segmentation within the architecture industry. My client base included research institutions, technology companies, and municipal governments that specifically sought expertise in sustainable building design, not budget-conscious customers seeking discounted services from less qualified practitioners. David contributed his legal perspective with observations about professional liability and business structure that reflected his mergers and acquisitions background while missing crucial distinctions between architectural practice and generic consulting activities. His corporate law experience had provided exposure to diverse business models, though his analysis consistently emphasized risk mitigation and organizational scaling that aligned with traditional corporate growth strategies. "The thing about solo consulting," David announced with legal precision, "is that personal liability exposure becomes really problematic as project scope increases. One significant lawsuit or professional negligence claim could wipe out years of earnings and destroy any accumulated business value. Smart practitioners typically join established firms specifically to access institutional insurance coverage and legal protection." His analysis contained elements of accuracy about professional liability concerns while completely ignoring the comprehensive insurance coverage, professional licensing, and regulatory compliance that characterized legitimate architectural practice. The assumption that I operated without appropriate legal protection reflected the family's persistent categorization of my work as informal consulting rather than regulated professional practice with established industry standards. Michael's consulting experience provided additional ammunition for the systematic dismantling of my career credibility, his Deloitte background lending authority to observations about operational efficiency and strategic planning that revealed sophisticated business knowledge applied to completely incorrect assumptions about my professional situation. "From a strategic perspective," Michael added with consulting confidence, "the fundamental problem is scalability limitation. Professional services that depend on personal expertise hit revenue ceilings pretty quickly unless the practitioner can develop intellectual property or systematic processes that create passive income streams. Most solo practices plateau within 5 years unless they evolve into something more substantial." The implication that my practice had plateaued rather than achieved consistent growth through client satisfaction and referral generation demonstrated how little attention family members had paid to my explanations about project portfolio expansion, industry recognition, and professional development that had characterized the previous 5 years of business development. Sarah's marketing background contributed additional analysis about brand positioning and competitive differentiation that reflected sophisticated understanding of market dynamics while completely missing the specialized nature of sustainable architecture and regulatory requirements that created barriers to entry for traditional practitioners seeking to enter environmental building design. "The environmental consulting space is becoming so commoditized," Sarah announced with marketing authority despite having no direct experience in construction or building design industries. "Every firm is adding sustainability services now, so differentiation becomes almost impossible. Without significant marketing budgets or partnership relationships, smaller consultants get squeezed out by established players with better resources." Her analysis demonstrated both ignorance about architectural specialization and fundamental misunderstanding of how professional credibility develops within regulated industries through demonstrated expertise, client results, and peer recognition, rather than marketing campaigns or promotional activities that characterized her technology industry experience. Uncle Richard's attempt at diplomatic intervention revealed his growing discomfort with the direction of family conversation while simultaneously reinforcing the underlying assumptions that made the mockery possible. His investment banking background had taught him to navigate sensitive professional discussions, though his proposed solutions consistently emphasized conventional career paths that would align my choices with family expectations. "I think what everyone's trying to say," Uncle Richard interjected with practiced diplomacy, "is that Sophia has demonstrated real creativity and dedication in building her practice. The question now becomes how to leverage that foundation into something more sustainable and financially rewarding. Maybe it's time to consider partnership opportunities with established firms that could provide resources and stability." The suggestion that I should seek partnership arrangements with established firms reflected the family's inability to recognize that my independent practice had become an established firm within the sustainable architecture market. The implication that my current situation lacked sustainability or financial reward, demonstrated how completely they had missed the business success that had been accumulating through client satisfaction and project completion. My cousin Lisa, recently married to a hedge fund manager, contributed observations about financial planning and wealth accumulation that reflected her new exposure to high net worth investment strategies, while revealing assumptions about income levels and financial security that bore no relationship to my actual professional circumstances. The reality is that without employer benefits, retirement contributions, and health insurance, freelancers need to earn significantly more than traditional employees just to break even, Lisa announced with newfound expertise in financial planning. Despite having no direct experience in business ownership or independent practice management, most people who go the consulting route end up returning to corporate employment once they realize how expensive independence actually becomes. Her analysis assumed that my practice operated without appropriate financial planning, insurance coverage, or retirement strategy development that any legitimate business would maintain as standard operational requirements. The suggestion that financial pressure would eventually force return to corporate employment revealed the family's assumption that my career choice represented temporary experimentation rather than strategic business development. The conversation attracted additional family members who gathered around our group with anticipatory energy that suggested entertainment value in witnessing systematic career demolition disguised as helpful analysis. Younger cousins who had recently entered corporate career tracks observed the discussion with interest, apparently viewing my situation as cautionary tale about unconventional professional choices and their inevitable consequences. My cousin, Rachel, working as a marketing coordinator at a tech startup, added her perspective with observations about workplace culture and career advancement that reflected her recent corporate experience while demonstrating the confidence of someone who had just begun professional development and believed her limited experience provided universal insights about career strategy. The thing about working alone is that you miss out on so much professional development, Rachel announced with the authority of someone 6 months into her first corporate position. Mentorship, training programs, networking opportunities, collaborative projects, all the stuff that actually builds real expertise. How do you even know if you're doing good work when there's nobody qualified to evaluate your performance? Her questions about professional development revealed complete ignorance about continuing education requirements for licensed architects, industry conference participation, professional organization membership, and peer review processes that maintained competency standards within regulated design professions. The assumption that quality evaluation required corporate supervision demonstrated fundamental misunderstanding of how professional expertise develops and validates itself through client results and industry recognition. Bradley's return to the conversation brought renewed energy to the career analysis, his venture capital perspective providing framework for evaluating business models that emphasized growth potential, market positioning, and competitive advantage through systematic value creation rather than personal expertise application. Look, the bottom line is that real entrepreneurs build systems that work without their constant involvement, Bradley announced with increasing confidence as alcohol consumption enhanced his natural tendency toward authoritative pronouncement. If Sophia disappeared tomorrow, her business would disappear with her. That's not entrepreneurship. That's just expensive freelancing with architectural training. The distinction between real entrepreneurs and expensive freelancing revealed the family's hierarchy of business legitimacy that prioritized scalable enterprise development over professional practice excellence. The implication that my work would disappear without personal involvement ignored client relationships, professional reputation, and systematic processes that had been developed over 5 years of practice refinement. Jennifer's pharmaceutical sales background provided additional ammunition for questioning the sustainability and growth potential of professional services that depended on individual expertise rather than systematic process development and team scaling that characterized her corporate environment. Plus, let's be honest about income potential. Jennifer added with salary precision that reflected her commission-based compensation structure. Even successful consultants hit earning ceilings that corporate executives surpass pretty quickly. Partners at major firms make serious money because they leverage other people's work. Solo practitioners are basically trading time for money, with no upside beyond personal billing rate increases. Her analysis demonstrated both sophisticated understanding of compensation structures and complete ignorance about architectural practice economics, where project fees, client relationships, and professional reputation created value streams that extended far beyond hourly billing arrangements. The assumption that my practice operated through time-based compensation revealed how little attention she had paid to explanations about project-based fees and value-driven pricing strategies. The systematic nature of the criticism began creating psychological pressure that transformed family gathering conversation into professional competency evaluation disguised as helpful career counseling. Each cousin contributed expertise from their respective industries, while demonstrating complete ignorance about sustainable architecture, regulatory requirements, or market dynamics that governed my professional environment. Michael's consulting experience provided framework for analyzing organizational structure and operational efficiency that emphasized systematic process development and competitive positioning through strategic planning rather than individual expertise application. That characterized professional service delivery. From an operational perspective, Michael announced with consulting authority, the fundamental challenge is that personal service businesses can't develop competitive moats or sustainable differentiation. Any advantage comes from individual capability rather than systematic innovation, which means competitors can replicate results by hiring similar talent or developing equivalent expertise. His analysis reflected sophisticated understanding of competitive strategy while missing crucial distinctions between commodity consulting and specialized professional practice that required years of education, licensing, and experience development. The suggestion that my expertise could be easily replicated ignored regulatory barriers, client relationship development, and technical specialization that created genuine competitive advantages within the sustainable architecture market. Sarah's marketing background contributed observations about brand development and market positioning that emphasized promotional activities and customer acquisition strategies rather than professional credibility building through demonstrated results and peer recognition that characterized architectural practice growth. The marketing challenge is really significant too, Sarah added with promotional confidence, despite having no experience in professional services marketing or regulatory constraints that governed architectural advertising. Without significant budget for brand development and lead generation, small consultants basically depend on word-of-mouth referrals, which limits growth potential and market expansion opportunities. Her analysis assumed that professional practice development required advertising campaigns and promotional activities rather than client satisfaction, project results, and industry reputation that drove sustainable business growth within regulated professions. The suggestion that my practice suffered from marketing limitations demonstrated complete misunderstanding of how architectural clients evaluate and select design professionals. The cumulative effect of these analyses created mounting pressure to defend career choices that had never required justification until subjected to systematic family scrutiny. The gap between my professional reality and their perception of my situation had been transformed into entertainment that provided satisfaction for relatives who found validation in diminishing unconventional career choices that challenged their assumptions about professional success. The psychological weight of sustained mockery began manifesting in physical symptoms that I struggled to conceal from family members who had transformed my professional achievements into afternoon entertainment. My hands trembled slightly as I reached for my water glass, the tremor barely perceptible but unmistakably present as adrenaline flooded my system in response to systematic character assassination disguised as career counseling. The familiar confidence that had carried me through challenging client presentations and complex project negotiations seemed to evaporate under the relentless scrutiny of relatives who measured success through metrics that bore no relationship to my professional reality. The sensation of isolation within my own family gathering created a profound disconnect between my external appearance and internal experience. While maintaining polite engagement with conversations that systematically dismantled my career credibility, I found myself retreating into psychological defense mechanisms that had served me during childhood encounters with academic criticism and social rejection. The adult professional who had earned industry recognition and client respect felt diminished by family dynamics that reduced complex achievements to simple failures of conventional ambition. Bradley's voice cut through my internal struggle with renewed analysis that demonstrated his venture capital training while revealing the depth of his misunderstanding about professional architecture practice. His confidence had been building throughout the afternoon, as each observation generated supportive laughter and reinforcing commentary from cousins who found validation in diminishing career choices that challenged their assumptions about legitimate business development. "The real tragedy," Bradley announced with authoritative finality, "is that Sophia probably has genuine talent that's being wasted on this garage operation. With proper corporate backing and systematic business development, she could probably build something significant. Instead, she's stuck in this freelance mentality that prevents real growth and wealth accumulation." The characterization of my practice as a garage operation that wasted genuine talent struck at the core of professional identity that had been carefully constructed through years of education, licensing, and client relationship development. The implication that corporate backing was necessary for real growth revealed his inability to recognize that independent practice had already achieved substantial growth through client satisfaction, referral generation, and industry recognition that occurred outside traditional corporate frameworks. Jennifer's pharmaceutical sales background provided additional framework for analyzing market positioning and competitive advantage that emphasized promotional activities and systematic customer acquisition rather than professional credibility, building through demonstrated results and peer recognition that characterized architectural practice development within regulated industries. "It's actually kind of sad when you think about it," Jennifer added with mock sympathy that transformed genuine concern into condescending pity. "Here's someone with advanced education and specialized training, working out of her garage like a hobbyist. Imagine what she could accomplish with proper resources and professional support systems. It's like watching a talented musician playing on street corners instead of pursuing recording contracts." The comparison between architectural practice and street corner performance revealed the family's fundamental inability to distinguish between professional services and entertainment activities that required entirely different skill sets, regulatory, frameworks, and market dynamics. The suggestion that my work resembled hobbyist activities rather than regulated professional practice demonstrated how completely they had dismissed explanations about licensing requirements, continuing education, mandates, and professional liability standards that governed legitimate architectural practice. David's legal perspective contributed observations about business structure and risk management that reflected his mergers and acquisitions experience, while missing crucial distinctions between corporate law practice and architectural project development that required different expertise, client relationships, and regulatory compliance frameworks. From a legal standpoint, David announced with professional authority, despite having no direct experience in construction law or professional practice regulation, the liability exposure alone should be enough to drive any rational person toward corporate employment. One major lawsuit or professional negligence claim could destroy personal financial security and create legal consequences that extend far beyond business operations. His analysis assumed that my practice operated without appropriate insurance, coverage, legal compliance, or risk management strategies that any legitimate business would maintain as standard operational requirements. The suggestion that rational professionals would avoid independent practice due to liability concerns ignored the comprehensive professional liability insurance, regulatory compliance frameworks, and legal protection mechanisms that had been established through careful business planning and industry standard procedures. Michael's consulting background provided additional ammunition for questioning the strategic thinking and operational efficiency that characterized my business development approach, his Deloitte experience lending credibility to observations about organizational scaling and systematic process development that emphasized corporate growth strategies over professional practice excellence. "The opportunity cost analysis is really striking," Michael added with consulting precision that demonstrated sophisticated analytical thinking applied to completely incorrect assumptions about my professional circumstances. 5 years of independent practice versus 5 years of corporate advancement would show dramatically different outcomes in terms of compensation progression, skill development, and career trajectory. At this point, the gap probably becomes impossible to close. The implication that 5 years of independent practice represented wasted time compared to corporate advancement revealed the family's inability to recognize that professional expertise, client relationships, and industry reputation represented valuable assets that could not be easily replicated through traditional employment pathways. The suggestion that career gaps had become impossible to close demonstrated fundamental misunderstanding of how professional credibility develops within specialized fields through demonstrated competence rather than organizational affiliation. Sarah's marketing experience contributed framework for evaluating brand positioning and competitive differentiation that emphasized promotional campaigns and customer acquisition strategies rather than professional reputation building through client results and peer recognition that drove sustainable growth within regulated professions. "The brand development challenge is probably the biggest obstacle," Sarah announced with marketing confidence, despite having no experience in professional services promotion or regulatory constraints that governed architectural advertising and client solicitation activities. Without significant investment in digital marketing, content creation, and lead generation systems, small consultants basically become invisible in competitive markets where established firms dominate search results and referral networks. Her analysis assumed that professional practice development required advertising expenditures and promotional activities rather than client satisfaction, project quality, and industry networking that created sustainable business growth through reputation rather than marketing manipulation. The suggestion that my practice suffered from visibility problems demonstrated complete misunderstanding of how architectural clients evaluate and select design professionals through referral networks, and demonstrated competence rather than promotional messaging. The systematic nature of the analysis created mounting pressure that transformed family gathering conversation into comprehensive career evaluation, disguised as helpful guidance from relatives who genuinely believed their corporate experience provided universal insights about business strategy and professional development. Each contribution built upon previous observations to create increasingly sophisticated criticism that revealed both business knowledge and complete ignorance about my actual professional circumstances. Uncle Richard's attempt at diplomatic summary revealed his growing awareness that family conversation had evolved beyond constructive career counseling into systematic character assassination that reflected poorly on family dynamics and interpersonal relationships. His investment banking background had taught him to navigate sensitive discussions while maintaining professional relationships that might prove valuable in future business development. "I think we all want what's best for Sophia," Uncle Richard interjected with practiced diplomacy that attempted to redirect conversation toward supportive guidance rather than continued mockery. The question becomes how to leverage her obvious intelligence and dedication into opportunities that provide better financial security and professional advancement. Maybe the solution involves gradual transition rather than dramatic career change. The suggestion that gradual transition was necessary to achieve better financial security and professional advancement reinforced the underlying assumption that my current situation lacked both security and advancement potential. The implication that dramatic change was required demonstrated how completely family members had missed the business success and professional recognition that had been accumulating through client satisfaction and industry engagement. My cousin Lisa's hedge fund exposure contributed additional observations about wealth accumulation and investment strategy that reflected her new understanding of high net worth financial planning while revealing assumptions about income levels and asset development that bore no relationship to my actual business performance and financial circumstances. The wealth-building implications are really significant, Lisa announced with newfound expertise in financial strategy, despite having limited direct experience in business ownership or independent practice management. Corporate executives build equity through stock options, retirement contributions, and systematic advancement that creates compound growth over time. Freelancers typically struggle with irregular income and limited investment capacity that prevents long-term wealth accumulation. Her analysis assumed that my practice generated irregular income and provided limited investment opportunities, rather than consistent project fees and strategic business development that had enabled systematic financial planning and asset accumulation. The suggestion that wealth building required corporate employment ignored successful business development and financial management that had characterized the previous 5 years of practice growth. The conversation attracted younger family members who observed the systematic career demolition with fascination that suggested educational value in witnessing consequences of unconventional professional choices. Recent college graduates and early career professionals appeared to view my situation as cautionary tale about alternative paths that deviated from established corporate advancement strategies. My cousin Rachel's marketing coordinator experience provided perspective on workplace culture and professional development that reflected her limited corporate exposure while demonstrating confidence in universal applicability of her recent observations about organizational dynamics and career progression within structured employment environments. The professional isolation must be really challenging, Rachel added with sympathetic concern that masked underlying assumptions about social needs and collaborative work preferences. How do you handle feedback, mentorship, and skill development when there's nobody qualified to provide guidance? Corporate environments offer so many learning opportunities that independent practitioners miss completely. Her questions about professional isolation revealed complete ignorance about professional organization membership, industry conference participation, client relationship development, and peer networking that provided continuous learning and professional growth opportunities outside traditional employment structures. The assumption that skill development required corporate supervision demonstrated fundamental misunderstanding of how expertise advances through practical application and industry engagement. Bradley's return to the conversation brought renewed analytical energy that transformed previous observations into comprehensive business evaluation that emphasized systematic failures and strategic miscalculations that had allegedly prevented my practice from achieving legitimate success within competitive market environments. The fundamental problem is mindset, Bradley announced with venture capital authority that reflected his experience evaluating business models and strategic positioning. Successful entrepreneurs think about scalability, market capture, and competitive advantage from day one. Lifestyle businesses prioritize personal comfort over growth potential, which explains why they remain small and eventually become unsustainable when market conditions change. The distinction between successful entrepreneurs and lifestyle businesses revealed the family's hierarchy of business legitimacy that prioritized rapid scaling and market domination over sustainable practice development and professional excellence. The implication that my approach prioritized personal comfort over growth demonstrated complete misunderstanding of strategic business development and market positioning that had characterized 5 years of careful practice expansion. Jennifer's pharmaceutical background contributed observations about competitive dynamics and market positioning that emphasized systematic customer acquisition and promotional activities rather than professional reputation building and client relationship development that drove sustainable growth within regulated professional services industries. The competitive landscape is shifting so rapidly that small players get eliminated unless they can adapt quickly to market changes, Jennifer added with sales confidence despite having no direct experience in professional services marketing or architectural industry dynamics. Major firms have resources to invest in technology, marketing, and talent acquisition that independent practitioners simply cannot match. Eventually, clients migrate toward providers who can offer comprehensive services and institutional credibility. Her analysis assumed that market competition favored large organizations over specialized practitioners, despite evidence that many clients specifically sought independent professionals who could provide personalized attention and innovative solutions that larger firms struggled to deliver efficiently. The suggestion that institutional credibility superseded professional competence revealed fundamental misunderstanding of how sophisticated clients evaluate and select professional service providers. The cumulative psychological impact of sustained criticism began manifesting in physical symptoms that I struggled to conceal from family members who had found entertainment value in systematic professional demolition. Tension headaches, elevated heart rate, and digestive discomfort created physiological stress responses that reflected the gap between external composure and internal distress generated by relentless character assassination disguised as helpful career guidance. The irony of my situation became increasingly apparent as family members who had achieved success within traditional corporate frameworks demonstrated complete inability to recognize achievement outside their narrow definition of professional legitimacy. Their sophisticated business knowledge, when applied to incorrect assumptions about my circumstances, generated analyses that sounded authoritative while missing fundamental aspects of my actual professional reality and business performance. The doorbell's melodic chime cut through the afternoon conversation with unexpected authority, creating a momentary pause in the systematic career demolition that had been entertaining my relatives for the better part of 2 hours. Uncle Richard's expression shifted from diplomatic concern to mild curiosity as he excused himself from our gathering to address whatever delivery or visitor had arrived at his front entrance. The timing felt almost supernatural, as if the universe had decided to intervene in family dynamics that had spiraled beyond constructive guidance into sustained character assassination. My cousins continued their analytical discussion during Uncle Richard's absence, their voices carrying the confident authority of professionals who had found validation in diminishing career choices that challenged their assumptions about legitimate business development. Bradley gestured expansively as he outlined additional concerns about market positioning and competitive advantage, his venture capital training providing framework for observations that demonstrated sophisticated business knowledge applied to fundamentally incorrect assumptions about my professional circumstances. The sound of Uncle Richard's footsteps returning to the patio carried unusual urgency that suggested something beyond routine package delivery or social visitation. His expression had transformed from mild curiosity to genuine surprise, and he carried an elegant package that bore the distinctive design elements of professional courier services, rather than standard postal delivery. The package itself commanded attention through its premium presentation, featuring sophisticated packaging materials and careful handling indicators that suggested contents of significant value and importance. "Sophia," Uncle Richard announced, with uncharacteristic formality, "this appears to be for you." The courier said it was urgent delivery requiring signature confirmation. His voice carried undertones of confusion mixed with growing awareness that whatever had arrived might fundamentally alter the trajectory of our family conversation. The courier's emphasis on urgency and signature requirements suggested official business communication rather than casual correspondence or promotional materials. The package felt substantial in my hands, its weight suggesting contents beyond simple documentation or promotional literature. The return address bore the prestigious logo of the American Institute of Sustainable Architecture, an organization whose recognition represented the highest levels of professional achievement within my specialized field. The elegant embossing and premium materials indicated official communication of exceptional significance, the kind of correspondence that marked career-defining moments rather than routine professional interaction. My family members gathered around with curiosity that temporarily suspended their systematic analysis of my career deficiencies. Their attention focused on the mysterious delivery that had arrived during the peak of their entertainment at my professional expense. The timing created dramatic tension that felt almost scripted, as if some cosmic force had orchestrated this interruption to provide counterpoint to hours of sustained mockery and condescending career counseling. Bradley's venture capital instincts immediately activated as he observed the premium packaging and official presentation that suggested business correspondence of exceptional importance. His experience evaluating investment opportunities had trained him to recognize visual indicators of institutional credibility and professional significance, though his understanding of architectural industry recognition remained limited by his focus on technology sector dynamics. "Looks pretty official," Bradley commented with the analytical tone that had characterized his afternoon observations about business strategy and market positioning. "Must be some kind of contract or legal documentation. Probably liability insurance, paperwork, or regulatory compliance requirements for your consulting work." His assumption that official correspondence must relate to bureaucratic obligations rather than professional recognition revealed the persistent categorization of my practice as problematic business activity rather than successful professional achievement. Jennifer's pharmaceutical sales background contributed additional speculation about the package contents. Her experience with corporate communications providing framework for evaluating business correspondence that emphasized promotional materials and customer relationship management, rather than industry recognition or professional honors that characterized regulated professional services. "Could be marketing materials from some trade organization," Jennifer suggested with sales confidence. Despite having no direct experience in professional architecture communications or industry association activities. "Those industry groups send out all kinds of promotional packages trying to sell membership services and training programs. They make everything look really important to generate response rates." Her analysis demonstrated both ignorance about professional recognition systems and persistent inability to imagine that my practice might have achieved distinction worthy of official acknowledgement from respected industry organizations. The suggestion that prestigious correspondence represented marketing manipulation rather than earned recognition revealed the depth of family assumptions about my professional circumstances and achievement levels. The elegant packaging demanded careful opening to preserve the presentation integrity that suggested contents of lasting significance rather than temporary business communications. My hands trembled slightly as I worked to remove the outer wrapping without damaging materials that clearly represented institutional investment in professional presentation and formal recognition protocols that extended beyond routine correspondence. The inner contents revealed a mahogany presentation box bearing the engraved seal of the American Institute of Sustainable Architecture, its polished surface reflecting late afternoon sunlight that streamed across Uncle Richard's patio with almost theatrical timing. The craftsmanship and materials indicated institutional recognition of exceptional significance, the kind of presentation reserved for achievements that represented substantial contribution to professional knowledge and industry advancement. David's legal background provided perspective on official documentation and institutional communications that reflected his mergers and acquisitions experience while missing crucial distinctions between corporate legal correspondence and professional recognition protocols that governed industry awards and achievement acknowledgement within regulated professions. "That's definitely some kind of formal documentation," David observed with legal precision, despite having no direct experience in professional recognition systems or industry award protocols. The presentation suggests either significant contract, opportunity, or serious regulatory compliance issue that requires immediate attention. Those kinds of packages usually contain time-sensitive legal obligations. His analysis assumed that formal presentation indicated problematic business circumstances rather than positive professional recognition, revealing the family's persistent expectation that my career would generate complications rather than achievements. The suggestion that urgent delivery indicated legal troubles demonstrated how completely they had dismissed the possibility that my work might warrant industry acknowledgement or peer recognition. The mahogany box opened to reveal contents that exceeded even my optimistic expectations about potential industry recognition, containing not just award documentation, but comprehensive acknowledgement of specific achievements that validated years of professional development and innovative contribution to sustainable building design. The presentation materials reflected institutional investment in recognition protocols that honored exceptional professional accomplishment rather than routine membership benefits or promotional activities. The award certificate bore elegant calligraphy that announced my selection as recipient of the 2024 Innovation Excellence Award for revolutionary contributions to sustainable architecture practice, an honor bestowed annually upon one practitioner, whose work demonstrated exceptional advancement in environmental building design and implementation. The language emphasized not just professional competence, but groundbreaking innovation that had influenced industry standards and inspired broader adoption of sustainable building practices. Michael's consulting background provided framework for analyzing institutional communications and professional recognition that emphasized systematic evaluation processes and competitive selection criteria rather than promotional activities or membership benefits that characterized his corporate experience with trade organization involvement and industry relationship management. Well, that looks more substantial than typical trade association materials, Michael admitted with consulting precision that reflected his growing awareness that package contents might represent something beyond routine business correspondence. Professional recognition usually involves more elaborate presentation and documentation requirements. Could be some kind of certification or accreditation acknowledgement. His analysis demonstrated both sophisticated understanding of institutional communication protocols and persistent inability to imagine that my practice might have achieved distinction worthy of major industry recognition. The suggestion that contents might represent certification rather than exceptional achievement revealed continued underestimation of my professional accomplishments and industry standing. Sarah's marketing experience contributed observations about brand recognition and promotional presentation that emphasized customer relationship management and promotional campaign effectiveness rather than professional achievement acknowledgement, and industry peer recognition that characterized legitimate award systems within regulated professional services. The presentation quality is definitely impressive, Sarah acknowledged with marketing confidence. Despite having no direct experience in professional recognition protocols or industry award systems, they obviously invested significant resources in packaging and materials, which suggests either major client opportunity or important business relationship development. Marketing departments usually reserve premium presentation for high-value prospect communications. Her analysis revealed both appreciation for presentation quality and fundamental misunderstanding of the distinction between promotional materials and professional recognition systems that honored achievement rather than pursued business development objectives. The suggestion that impressive presentation indicated marketing activities rather than earned recognition demonstrated persistent categorization of all professional correspondence as business development rather than achievement acknowledgement. The award documentation included detailed citation of specific projects that had warranted industry recognition, including the Harbor View residential complex that had achieved unprecedented energy efficiency standards while maintaining affordability for low-income families. The citation specifically acknowledged innovative approaches to passive cooling systems, renewable energy integration, and sustainable material selection that had created new standards for affordable housing development. Within environmental building practices, additional recognition addressed the Redwood Community Center project that had demonstrated how municipal buildings could achieve net zero energy consumption while serving diverse community needs through flexible space design and advanced environmental systems. The citation emphasized not just technical achievement, but social impact that had influenced municipal building policies throughout the Bay Area, and inspired similar projects in other regions. The corporate headquarters design for Martinez Technology Solutions received specific acknowledgement for workplace environment innovations that had improved employee satisfaction while reducing operational costs through systematic energy efficiency and environmental quality improvements. The citation noted that this project had become a model for technology company facilities throughout Silicon Valley, influencing industry standards for corporate environmental responsibility. Uncle Richard's investment banking background provided perspective on institutional recognition and professional achievement that reflected his experience with corporate awards and industry acknowledgement, while revealing growing awareness that package contents represented something significantly beyond routine business correspondence or promotional materials. That appears to be legitimate industry recognition, Uncle Richard observed with diplomatic precision that reflected his growing understanding that family conversation had been based on fundamentally incorrect assumptions about my professional circumstances and achievement levels. Professional awards typically involve comprehensive evaluation processes and competitive selection criteria that indicate substantial peer recognition and industry standing. His analysis demonstrated both sophisticated understanding of institutional recognition systems and diplomatic awareness that family dynamics required careful navigation, as evidence accumulated that challenged assumptions about my career situation and professional competence. The acknowledgement that contents represented legitimate industry recognition marked the beginning of fundamental reassessment of previous conversations and analytical conclusions. The award materials included a comprehensive portfolio documenting the evaluation process that had led to my selection, featuring peer review comments from respected industry professionals who had assessed my contributions to sustainable architecture advancement. The documentation revealed that evaluation criteria included not just individual project excellence, but broader influence on industry practices and professional knowledge development that extended beyond personal business success. Peer review. Comments specifically addressed innovative approaches to energy modeling, sustainable material integration, and regulatory compliance that had advanced professional knowledge while demonstrating practical application in real-world project environments. The evaluators had noted that my work represented rare combination of technical sophistication and practical implementation that created measurable environmental impact while maintaining economic viability for diverse client types. The selection committee had consisted of 12 respected practitioners from major architecture firms, academic institutions, and regulatory organizations, lending exceptional credibility to the recognition process and award significance. Their unanimous selection of my work from among 47 nominees represented validation from the most qualified professionals in sustainable architecture practice, including several practitioners whose work I had studied during my own professional development. Bradley's venture capital training provided framework for evaluating competitive selection processes and institutional credibility that emphasized systematic evaluation criteria and professional peer recognition rather than promotional activities, or membership benefits that characterized his previous assumptions about trade organization involvement and industry relationship development. This is definitely legitimate professional recognition, Bradley acknowledged with venture capital precision that reflected his growing awareness that package contents represented something substantially beyond routine business correspondence or promotional literature. The evaluation process and selection committee composition indicates serious institutional credibility and competitive achievement standards that suggest significant professional accomplishment. His analysis marked fundamental shift from dismissive assumptions about my career circumstances toward recognition that previous family conversation had been based on incomplete understanding of my professional situation and industry standing. The acknowledgement that recognition represented significant professional accomplishment contradicted hours of systematic career demolition and analytical criticism. The award announcement included plans for recognition ceremony at the annual conference of the American Institute of Sustainable Architecture, scheduled for presentation before an audience of over 3,000 industry professionals including representatives from major firms, academic institutions, and regulatory organizations. The ceremony would feature my presentation about innovative approaches that had warranted industry recognition, providing platform for sharing knowledge with practitioners throughout the sustainable architecture community. Media coverage plans included features in Architectural Record, Sustainable Building Magazine, and Environmental Design Quarterly, publications that served as industry standards for professional knowledge dissemination and career development information. The coverage would document not just award recognition, but specific innovations that had influenced industry practices, providing educational value for practitioners seeking to implement similar approaches in their own work. The comprehensive nature of the recognition package revealed institutional investment in acknowledging achievement that extended far beyond routine member appreciation or promotional relationship building. The documentation, presentation materials, and planned recognition activities indicated systematic evaluation of professional contribution and competitive selection of exceptional achievement worthy of industry-wide acknowledgement and educational dissemination. The immediate aftermath of reading the award citation created an atmospheric shift that transformed Uncle Richard's patio from entertainment venue into examination room, where family assumptions faced systematic dismantling through documented evidence of professional achievement. The silence that followed my completion of the award announcement stretched across several minutes, punctuated only by the distant sounds of neighborhood activity that highlighted the profound quiet that had replaced hours of animated career, analysis, and systematic character assassination. Bradley's venture capital confidence, which had driven much of the afternoon's mockery through authoritative pronouncements about business strategy and market positioning, appeared to evaporate as he processed information that contradicted fundamental assumptions about my professional circumstances and industry standing. His expression shifted from analytical certainty toward visible confusion as he struggled to reconcile documented recognition with previous assessments that had positioned my practice as unsuccessful lifestyle business lacking strategic vision or competitive advantage. The physical evidence contained within the mahogany presentation box created undeniable contradiction to family narratives that had reduced 5 years of professional development to expensive freelancing with architectural training. The institutional credibility of the American Institute of Sustainable Architecture, combined with comprehensive documentation of evaluation processes and peer recognition, established professional achievement that exceeded anything my relatives had anticipated or imagined possible within their narrow framework for measuring career success. Jennifer's pharmaceutical sales background had equipped her with sophisticated understanding of competitive markets and professional advancement, yet her expertise provided no framework for processing evidence that challenged systematic assumptions about my career trajectory and business competence. Her confident assertions about market dynamics and promotional activities within the environmental consulting space appeared increasingly hollow when measured against documented recognition from the most respected practitioners in sustainable architecture. The award citation's specific acknowledgement of project innovations and environmental impact measurements created precise contradiction to family assumptions about the sophistication and market relevance of my work. References to energy efficiency achievements, cost reduction implementations, and regulatory influence demonstrated technical expertise and practical results that extended far beyond the hobbyist activities or lifestyle business operations that had characterized family discussions throughout the afternoon. David's legal training had taught him to evaluate evidence systematically and distinguish between promotional materials and legitimate institutional recognition, yet his professional skepticism appeared insufficient for processing the comprehensive documentation that validated industry achievement at levels that contradicted his earlier analyses of business structure and professional liability concerns. The careful presentation and institutional backing created credibility that challenged his assumptions about the risks and limitations of independent professional practice. Michael's consulting experience at Deloitte had provided exposure to diverse business models and professional recognition systems. Yet his framework for analyzing operational efficiency and strategic positioning offered limited guidance for understanding how individual practitioners could achieve industry-wide influence without corporate resources or systematic team scaling. The evidence suggested that professional excellence and innovative thinking could create competitive advantages that transcended traditional organizational limitations. Uncle Richard's investment banking background included extensive experience with professional achievement evaluation and institutional credibility assessment, positioning him to recognize the significance of competitive selection processes and peer review systems that had led to my recognition. His diplomatic skills enabled him to navigate the family dynamics that required careful reassessment of previous conversations and analytical conclusions without creating defensive reactions or interpersonal conflict. The evaluation process described in these materials indicates substantial professional peer recognition. Uncle Richard observed with measured precision that acknowledged the legitimacy of the award while creating space for family members to adjust their understanding without admitting fundamental errors in previous assessments. Industry awards of this caliber typically involve rigorous competitive evaluation and systematic peer review that establishes exceptional professional achievement. His diplomatic acknowledgement provided framework for family members to process evidence that challenged their assumptions while maintaining dignity and avoiding direct confrontation about the accuracy of their previous analyses. The emphasis on rigorous competitive evaluation and systematic peer review highlighted institutional credibility that distinguished legitimate professional recognition from promotional activities or membership benefits that had characterized their initial dismissive responses. Sarah's marketing expertise had contributed to systematic analysis of brand positioning and competitive dynamics throughout the afternoon. Yet her professional knowledge provided limited guidance for understanding how individual practitioners could achieve industry recognition without significant promotional investment or corporate marketing support. The evidence suggested that professional reputation and innovative contribution could generate institutional acknowledgement through merit rather than promotional manipulation. The documentation of specific project achievements and their measurable environmental impact created concrete evidence of professional competence that extended beyond theoretical knowledge or academic credentials toward practical implementation and real-world results. The Harbor View Residential Complex citation specifically noted energy efficiency improvements and cost reduction achievements that demonstrated technical expertise and practical problem-solving capabilities that generated measurable value for clients and communities. Lisa's recent exposure to hedge fund investment strategies and wealth management principles had contributed to her analysis of financial planning and asset accumulation challenges facing independent practitioners. Yet, the award documentation suggested that professional achievement and industry recognition could create opportunities for financial success that transcended traditional corporate compensation structures. The evidence indicated that specialized expertise and innovative contribution could generate value streams that extended beyond hourly billing or project-based compensation. Rachel's early career corporate experience had shaped her understanding of professional development and mentorship requirements. Yet the award materials documented continuous learning and industry engagement that challenged assumptions about isolation and limited growth opportunities within independent practice. The peer recognition and institutional acknowledgement suggested that professional networks and knowledge development could occur through industry participation rather than corporate employment structures. The comprehensive nature of the award documentation revealed systematic evaluation processes that assessed not just individual project success, but broader contribution to professional knowledge and industry advancement. The selection committee composition included representatives from major architectural firms, academic institutions, and regulatory organizations, establishing credibility that transcended any single perspective or institutional bias toward particular practice models or business structures. Peer review comments specifically addressed innovative approaches to technical challenges and practical implementation of theoretical concepts that had advanced professional knowledge while demonstrating measurable results in real-world applications. The evaluators had noted rare combination of technical sophistication and practical effectiveness that created environmental impact while maintaining economic viability across diverse project types and client circumstances. The selection process had evaluated 47 nominees from throughout the sustainable architecture community, including practitioners from major corporate firms, academic institutions, and government organizations. The competitive nature of the evaluation established that recognition represented exceptional achievement rather than participation award or membership benefit that might be distributed broadly among qualified practitioners. Bradley's venture capital training enabled him to recognize competitive selection processes and institutional credibility indicators. Yet his framework for evaluating business models and market positioning provided limited guidance for understanding how individual achievement could warrant industry-wide recognition without corporate backing or systematic organizational scaling. The evidence challenged fundamental assumptions about the relationship between business structure and professional accomplishment. The competitive selection process described in these materials indicates achievement that extends beyond typical professional recognition, Bradley acknowledged with venture capital precision, that reflected his growing understanding that award significance exceeded routine industry acknowledgement. Selection from 47 nominees by institutional peer review suggests exceptional professional contribution that warrants serious recognition within the sustainable architecture community. His analysis marked fundamental revision of previous assessments that had characterized my practice as lifestyle business lacking strategic vision or competitive advantage. The acknowledgement that recognition indicated exceptional professional contribution contradicted systematic career demolition that had provided afternoon entertainment for family members who had found validation in diminishing unconventional career choices. Jennifer's pharmaceutical sales experience included exposure to industry recognition systems and competitive achievement evaluation. Yet her understanding of market dynamics within corporate environments provided limited framework for processing evidence of individual practitioner achievement that had influenced industry standards and inspired broader adoption of innovative approaches. The award documentation suggested that professional excellence could create market influence without corporate resources or promotional investment. This level of industry recognition typically requires sustained professional excellence and measurable contribution to field advancement, Jennifer observed with sales precision that reflected her growing awareness that award significance exceeded routine professional acknowledgement. The institutional backing and competitive selection process indicate achievement that extends beyond individual project success toward broader influence on industry practices and standards. Her analysis represented substantial shift from dismissive assumptions about environmental consulting commoditization toward recognition that specialized expertise and innovative implementation could create competitive differentiation and professional distinction within sophisticated market environments. The acknowledgement that recognition indicated sustained professional excellence contradicted previous characterizations of my work as expensive freelancing without strategic direction. David's legal background provided framework for evaluating institutional processes and documentation credibility, yet his corporate law experience offered limited guidance for understanding how individual practitioners could achieve recognition that influenced regulatory standards and professional practices throughout an industry. The award materials suggested that technical innovation and practical implementation could create legal and regulatory influence without corporate institutional backing. The documentation standards and institutional backing indicate legitimate professional recognition that extends beyond routine industry acknowledgement. David acknowledged with legal precision that reflected his growing understanding that award credibility exceeded promotional activities or membership benefits. The evaluation process and selection criteria suggest systematic assessment of professional contribution that warrants serious consideration within the legal and regulatory framework of architectural practice. His analysis marked recognition That previous assessments of liability exposure and business structure limitations had been based on incomplete understanding of my professional circumstances and industry standing. The acknowledgement that recognition represented legitimate professional recognition contradicted systematic analysis that had questioned the viability and strategic thinking behind independent practice development. The media coverage plans documented in the award materials included features in publications that served as industry standards for professional knowledge dissemination and career development guidance. Architectural Record, Sustainable Building Magazine, and Environmental Design Quarterly represented authoritative sources that influenced professional practices and educational curricula throughout the architectural community, lending additional credibility to the recognition significance. The planned recognition ceremony at the annual conference would provide platform for presenting innovative approaches to an audience of over 3,000 industry professionals, including representatives from major firms, academic institutions, and regulatory organizations. The presentation opportunity suggested that industry leadership valued sharing knowledge and approaches that had warranted competitive recognition through systematic peer evaluation. Michael's consulting experience had exposed him to diverse professional recognition systems and institutional credibility evaluation, yet his framework for analyzing organizational efficiency and strategic positioning provided limited guidance for understanding how individual expertise could influence industry-wide practices and regulatory standards. The evidence suggested that professional innovation and technical excellence could create systemic influence without corporate resources or team scaling. The scope of recognition documented in these materials indicates professional achievement that influences industry standards and regulatory practices, Michael observed with consulting precision that reflected his growing awareness that award significance exceeded routine professional acknowledgement. The institutional backing and competitive selection process suggest systematic evaluation of contribution that extends beyond individual project success toward broader influence on professional knowledge and implementation standards. His analysis represented fundamental revision of previous assessments that had questioned scalability limitations and strategic positioning challenges within independent practice. The acknowledgement that recognition indicated influence on industry standards and regulatory practices contradicted systematic criticism that had positioned my work as lacking competitive advantage or sustainable differentiation within sophisticated market environments. The comprehensive documentation revealed that evaluation criteria had included not just technical achievement, but educational contribution and knowledge dissemination that advanced professional understanding and practical implementation of sustainable building practices. The selection committee had assessed my work for both individual excellence and broader influence on professional development and industry advancement throughout the sustainable architecture community. The award announcement included acknowledgement that recognized approaches had been adopted by other practitioners and incorporated into educational curricula at major universities, establishing influence that extended beyond individual project. Success towards systematic advancement of professional knowledge and practical implementation capabilities. The educational impact suggested that innovative thinking and technical expertise had created value that transcended immediate client relationships or project-specific applications. Uncle Richard's diplomatic skills enabled him to provide framework for family reassessment that acknowledged evidence without creating defensive reactions or interpersonal conflict among relatives who had invested significant energy in systematic career analysis throughout the afternoon. His investment banking experience had taught him to manage situations where new information required fundamental revision of previous assessments and strategic conclusions. The evidence presented in these award materials suggests that our understanding of Sophia's professional circumstances may have been incomplete, Uncle Richard stated with diplomatic precision that created space for family members to adjust their perspectives without admitting fundamental errors in previous analyses. Industry recognition of this caliber indicates professional achievement and market influence that extends beyond the framework we have been using to evaluate career development and business strategy. His diplomatic acknowledgement provided Pathway for family members to process evidence that challenged systematic assumptions while maintaining interpersonal relationships and avoiding direct confrontation about the accuracy of their previous assessments and analytical conclusions. The emphasis on incomplete understanding, rather than incorrect analysis, enabled family dynamics to evolve without creating defensive reactions or lasting interpersonal conflict. The psychological discomfort of confronting fundamental misjudgment manifested in increasingly elaborate attempts to minimize the significance of documented professional achievement while maintaining previously established family hierarchies and analytical frameworks. Each relative appeared to process the award information through filters that preserved their sense of professional superiority while acknowledging evidence that challenged systematic assumptions about my career circumstances and market positioning within the sustainable architecture industry. Bradley's venture capital training enabled him to recognize institutional credibility and competitive selection processes, yet his response revealed determined effort to contextualize the achievement within frameworks that preserved his analytical authority and business expertise. His voice carried forced confidence as he attempted to position industry recognition as interesting development rather than fundamental contradiction to his previous assessments of strategic thinking and market awareness. Obviously, this represents meaningful recognition within the architecture community, Bradley announced with measured precision that acknowledged award legitimacy while implying limitations on broader significance. The question becomes how to leverage this kind of industry credibility into scalable business opportunities that create real wealth accumulation and systematic growth beyond project-based compensation structures. His analysis attempted to transform documented achievement into validation of previous concerns about scalability limitations and strategic positioning challenges that had characterized his systematic criticism throughout the afternoon. The suggestion that industry recognition should be leveraged into different business models revealed persistent inability to recognize that professional excellence and innovative contribution represented valuable outcomes independent of venture capital frameworks. For evaluating commercial success, Jennifer's pharmaceutical sales experience had exposed her to industry recognition systems and competitive achievement evaluation. Yet her response demonstrated determined effort to maintain previously established analytical frameworks while acknowledging evidence that contradicted fundamental assumptions about market dynamics and professional competence within environmental consulting sectors. This definitely validates the technical expertise we always knew you possessed, Jennifer stated with diplomatic precision that acknowledged professional competence while implying that previous criticism had been supportive rather than dismissive. The challenge now becomes translating industry recognition into sustainable business growth that provides long-term financial security and competitive positioning within increasingly crowded market segments. Her analysis attempted to reframe systematic career demolition as constructive guidance that had somehow anticipated current recognition, while maintaining concerns about market positioning and competitive advantage that had characterized her contributions to the afternoon's mockery. The suggestion that industry achievement required translation into business success revealed persistent categorization of professional recognition as symbolic rather than substantive validation of career, strategy, and market competence. David's legal background provided framework for evaluating institutional processes and documentation credibility. Yet his response revealed careful effort to acknowledge award legitimacy while preserving previously established concerns about business structure and professional liability exposure that had contributed to systematic analysis of my career deficiencies throughout the family gathering. The institutional backing and evaluation process certainly established legitimate professional recognition, David acknowledged with legal precision, that validated award credibility, while implying limitations on practical significance. The important consideration becomes how this recognition affects professional liability exposure and business development opportunities within regulatory frameworks that govern architectural practice and environmental consulting activities. His analysis attempted to transform professional achievement into framework for continued concern about legal compliance and risk management issues, that had characterized his previous contributions to family discussion. The emphasis on regulatory frameworks and liability considerations revealed persistent categorization of independent practice as problematic business activity, despite documented evidence of industry recognition and peer validation. Michael's consulting experience at Deloitte had provided exposure to diverse professional recognition systems and institutional credibility evaluation, yet his response demonstrated systematic effort to acknowledge achievement significance while maintaining analytical frameworks that preserved his expertise and professional superiority within family discussion dynamics. Industry recognition of this caliber obviously indicates exceptional professional contribution and technical expertise. Michael observed with consulting authority that validated achievement while implying additional considerations about operational efficiency and strategic positioning. The strategic question becomes how to capitalize on this credibility to develop systematic processes and organizational scaling that create sustainable competitive advantages beyond individual expertise application. His analysis attempted to position industry recognition as validation of previous concerns about operational limitations and strategic development challenges that had characterized systematic criticism throughout the afternoon. The emphasis on systematic processes and organizational scaling revealed persistent inability to recognize that professional excellence and innovative contribution represented legitimate business outcomes independent of corporate consulting frameworks for evaluating commercial viability. Sarah's marketing background had contributed to systematic analysis of brand positioning and competitive dynamics throughout the afternoon, yet her response revealed determined effort to acknowledge professional achievement while maintaining previously established concerns about promotional activities and market visibility that had characterized her contributions to family discussion. This kind of industry recognition obviously provides substantial credibility and professional positioning benefits, Sarah stated with marketing precision, that acknowledged achievement significance while implying additional requirements for commercial success. The marketing opportunity becomes leveraging institutional recognition to develop brand awareness and customer acquisition systems that create systematic business growth beyond word-of-mouth referral networks. Her analysis attempted to transform professional achievement into framework for continued concern about marketing limitations and promotional challenges that had characterized her systematic criticism. The emphasis on brand development and customer acquisition revealed persistent categorization of industry recognition as promotional opportunity rather than validation of professional competence and market positioning that had already achieved competitive success. Uncle Richard's investment banking experience provided sophisticated understanding of institutional recognition and competitive achievement evaluation, positioning him to acknowledge award significance while managing family dynamics that required diplomatic navigation of fundamental reassessment without creating defensive reactions or interpersonal conflict among relatives who had invested substantial energy in systematic career analysis. The evidence clearly establishes professional achievement that extends beyond our previous understanding of market positioning and industry influence, Uncle Richard stated with diplomatic precision that acknowledged award legitimacy while creating framework for family adjustment. The appropriate response becomes recognizing exceptional accomplishment while exploring opportunities for continued professional development and business expansion that build upon demonstrated expertise and industry credibility. His diplomatic approach provided pathway for family members to process evidence while maintaining interpersonal relationships and avoiding direct confrontation about analytical accuracy. The emphasis on continued development and expansion enabled relatives to position themselves as supportive rather than acknowledging systematic misjudgment that had characterized afternoon conversation. The psychological mechanisms underlying family responses revealed sophisticated strategies for preserving established hierarchies and analytical authority, while accommodating evidence that contradicted fundamental assumptions about professional competence and market success. Each relative appeared to process award information through frameworks that minimized personal embarrassment while maintaining previously established expertise and advisory relationships. Lisa's recent exposure to hedge fund investment strategies and wealth management principles had contributed to her analysis of financial planning challenges facing independent practitioners, yet her response demonstrated careful effort to acknowledge achievement while preserving concerns about asset accumulation and long-term financial security that had characterized her contributions to systematic career evaluation. Industry recognition obviously establishes professional credibility and market positioning that creates opportunities for financial growth. Lisa observed with financial precision that acknowledged achievement significance while implying additional requirements for wealth accumulation. The investment strategy becomes leveraging professional recognition to develop systematic revenue streams and asset accumulation that provide long-term financial security independent of project-based income generation. Her analysis attempted to transform professional achievement into validation of previous concerns about financial planning limitations and investment capacity restrictions that had characterized systematic criticism throughout the afternoon. The emphasis on systematic revenue development revealed persistent inability to recognize that industry recognition and professional competence represented substantial assets, independent of traditional wealth accumulation frameworks. Rachel's early career corporate experience had shaped her understanding of professional development requirements and workplace culture benefits, yet her response revealed determined effort to acknowledge achievement while maintaining concerns about professional isolation and skill development limitations that had characterized her contributions to family discussion about independent practice challenges. This recognition obviously validates technical expertise and professional competence that we always recognized, Rachel stated with diplomatic precision that reframed previous criticism as supportive acknowledgement. The professional development opportunity becomes leveraging industry credibility to access collaborative relationships and mentorship opportunities that provide continued learning and skill advancement beyond individual practice limitations. Her analysis attempted to position industry achievement as framework for addressing previously identified concerns about professional isolation and development restrictions, rather than contradiction to systematic criticism about independent practice deficiencies. The emphasis on collaborative relationships revealed persistent categorization of current success as incomplete without corporate employment benefits and organizational support systems. The collective family response revealed sophisticated psychological strategies for managing cognitive dissonance between documented evidence and previously established beliefs about professional competence and career strategy. Each relative appeared to process award information through selective frameworks that preserved analytical authority, while acknowledging achievement significance within limited contexts that maintained previously established concern patterns. The transformation of systematic criticism into retroactive support represented complex psychological adjustment that enabled family members to maintain interpersonal relationships while avoiding direct acknowledgement of fundamental misjudgment. About professional circumstances and industry positioning, the reframing of previous mockery as constructive guidance demonstrated sophisticated rationalization mechanisms that preserved family dynamics while accommodating contradictory evidence. My growing awareness of these psychological adjustments created opportunities for strategic response that could establish new family dynamics while maintaining interpersonal relationships and avoiding unnecessary confrontation about analytical accuracy or professional judgment quality. The documented achievement provided leverage for repositioning family interactions while demonstrating professional maturity and diplomatic skill development that enhanced rather than diminished interpersonal connections. The award documentation continued to generate discussion as family members processed comprehensive evidence of competitive selection processes and institutional credibility that established professional achievement, extending far beyond their previous analytical frameworks. The peer review comments and evaluation criteria revealed sophisticated assessment of technical innovation and practical implementation that had influenced industry standards and regulatory practices throughout the sustainable architecture community. The recognition ceremony plans and media coverage opportunities documented in award materials provided concrete evidence of industry influence and professional reputation that extended beyond immediate project success toward systematic contribution to professional knowledge and practical implementation capabilities. The educational impact and knowledge dissemination components established that recognized achievements had created value throughout the professional community, rather than individual business success. The selection committee composition and competitive evaluation process revealed institutional investment in recognizing exceptional professional contribution rather than routine membership benefits or promotional relationship building. The systematic peer review and competitive assessment established credibility that transcended any single perspective or institutional bias toward particular practice models or business development strategies. The comprehensive nature of award documentation created undeniable evidence of professional competence and industry influence that challenged every aspect of systematic criticism that had characterized family discussion throughout the afternoon. The institutional backing and competitive selection process established achievement significance that extended far beyond the lifestyle business categorization that had provided framework for analytical dismissal. The measurable environmental impact and technical innovation documented in project citations provided concrete evidence of professional expertise and practical problem-solving capabilities that generated real-world value for clients and communities. The specific achievements in energy efficiency, improvement, and cost reduction implementation demonstrated technical competence and innovative thinking that created competitive advantages within sophisticated market environments. The regulatory influence and industry standard development documented in award materials established that recognized approaches had been adopted by other practitioners and incorporated into professional education curricula throughout the sustainable architecture community. The systematic adoption and knowledge dissemination indicated that individual achievement had created broader professional influence that extended beyond immediate business success toward industry-wide advancement and practical implementation. Improvement. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.